Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great week. In case you couldn't tell, I am not Alicia Andrews. I am holding it down while our chair is in a different meeting. But this is okay because there's a lot to talk about today that primarily happened at the Capitol. We'll get around to special session. We'll talk about what's happening in DC. But first off, I just want to talk about some community events and things that have been really positive, because I think we could all use a little bit more of that. Last weekend was Fiestas de las Americas in South Oklahoma City. It was a huge success, and I want to thank Gloria Torres and Jessica Brooks for putting this together, along with numerous other people in the Southside community. It was an awesome parade. There were thousands of people out there, and we just had a chance to really showcase, highlight, and enjoy and appreciate the diversity and the culture of South Oklahoma City, with great entertainment and music and food and dance. It was just a really great time. I also want to give a shout out to Joe Dorman and the child advocacy program that he runs, OICA, Oklahoma Institute Child Advocacy. They had a great event a couple nights ago called Kid Governor, and all of the few other previous governors were there. Governor George Nye, Governor Brad Henry, Governor David Walters, and of course, the children, the kid governors were there too, typically 7th and 8th graders. It was a great event, and it was well attended. And if you haven't had a chance to go check that out, I would highly recommend it. Those kids are on top of it. They have policy ideas that you and I probably wouldn't have thought of before. And the future is bright, and getting young people engaged in civics and helping them know that they have a role and that they will be the future. They are the future of this state. Goes a long way in preparing them and building their confidence for the years ahead. I also had a chance to do quite a bit of speaking engagements recently. I spoke to a college campus actually about a week ago, and I was giving them a little bit of information about my background. I talked about when I was on the USA bobsledding team and all of that, and getting to travel and compete against other countries and represent the United States. And at the end of my speech, one of the students asked me a question I've never had before. They asked, is there any similarities between the USA bobsledding team and the Oklahoma State Legislature? And I thought about it for a little bit, and I said, well, yeah, actually there is. They're both going downhill fast. And then we all kind of laughed, and then we didn't, because it would be a whole lot funnier if it weren't true. And the past 2 days has kind of really epitomized that comment of going downhill fast. We know that we were brought into a special session with the governor wanting us to first just do elimination of income tax cuts. And Senate leadership, President Pro Tem Greg Treat said, well, that's a huge ask. We invite you to our committee to talk about what you'd like to cut, or maybe the taxes you'd like to raise in order to get that plan across the finish line. But my members, they want some guidance. This is your idea. Let's come talk about it. We can build a consensus. And the governor, just 3 stories down at the Capitol, was having a press release, or having a press conference, and did not make it to the Budget and Appropriations Committee in time. And later that day, on Tuesday afternoon, President Pro Tem Treat decided to sine die, or that's Latin for end of day, which is basically leave session. I think this was a huge missed opportunity by the governor. By showing up to that committee, he could have said exactly what he always says in press conference. We'd probably still be in special session today if he had done that. Now, why did he pass that opportunity? I don't know, but we are here today. And so the Senate has adjourned, and the House of Representatives did a pretty sly strategic move. We didn't adjourn or sine die. We just took a long recess. It's called a call of the chair. And the reason that we did this was to prevent the governor from being able to call yet another special session. Because on top of just being a huge time waster, it's also quite a bit of money, $35,000 a day, so $70,000 total, to just show up and basically have a very expensive press conference. But with the call of the chair, the governor can't call another special session. And I would think that this would go on into February when we would start up regular session. Now, there has been talks of the President Pro Tem of the Senate possibly having talks with the governor to see where we go from here on if it would be practical to implement a quarter of a cut in the income tax cut. Keep in mind that they recently did implement a income tax cut not too long ago, and you may have not have noticed it because for a family or a person making $50,000 a year in Oklahoma, a quarter of a percent tax cut equates to about $34, roughly 9 cents a day. But if you take that $34 a year and you multiply it by the millions of people that live in Oklahoma, you can see why that's a significant portion of our budget that can go to core services, in which many of the most important ones that we want to be the top 10 in, we're currently in the bottom 10, like healthcare, education, public safety, you get it. So we're kind of just waiting right now on what they can do over there in the Senate. But as of right now, this is where we're at. And I think it's a bad look for the governor. And, President Pro Tem Greg Treat, if you forgot it, at one point he was governor for a couple of days because Kevin Stitt and Matt Pinnell were not in Oklahoma. So by default, that made him governor. And at that time, we had a natural disaster. And he actually did a really good job of taking the initiative and doing what a governor should do and leading and helping people through a very difficult time. So we'll see. There's been talks of him being a governor contestant, a candidate, as well as Speaker McCall. Those are the rumors. And we've had a couple of others. So it's shaping up to be a very interesting primary season. And as you know, campaign season is right around the corner. I would invite you to chat. Let's see if we've got any people on here currently tuned in. I'd invite you to ask any questions you may have. Consider this like a Ask Me Anything. It's just me driving here. So we can circle back to the special session if you have specific questions. And then we can also talk about what's going on in D.C. Of course, Speaker McCarthy, former speaker, had made a really tough deal with his members when he tried 15 times to win the speakership back in January. And finally, on the 15th time, he got it. But he knew that at any point in time, he could be fired. And that's exactly what happened from some of the more right-wing members of his caucus. And so he was ousted, and now there's talks of who's going to be next. And believe it or not, there's a couple of the Oklahoma delegation that have been considered, primarily Kevin Hern and Tom Cole. Now, Kevin Hern, I would say, is top 3 at this point. I don't think that Congressman Tom Cole is very interested in that speaker's job, which is probably pretty smart, as you can tell how difficult it is you could imagine how difficult it is to navigate such a contentious caucus. So we'll see what happens with Kevin Hern. But I know that a lot of Democrats ended up joining a lot of Republicans in ousting Kevin McCarthy because apparently Kevin had broken his deal with the Democrats that he wouldn't use the impeachment process for political purposes. And he obviously did that several weeks ago when he was initiating the impeachment process on President Biden. So, you can't burn both bridges and expect to come out on top. And that's what has led him to where he's at today. Okay. Who is a Democrat running for governor? By Stacia Hicks. Stacia? Thank you. That's a very good question. At this point, I haven't heard of anyone throw their hat in the ring. It's going to be very interesting. I know that there's been talks of people and preferences and who can do what and who's ready to go. But at this point, I haven't heard of any serious candidates putting their hat in the ring. If you've heard anything, feel free to put it in the chat and we can discuss it a little bit more. We do have some interesting interim studies coming up. Okay, let's keep that question up here for a second. It says, well, let's go to a governor that has insinuated that the huge savings account is due to decreased taxes. Seemed that decreased spending has resulted in the savings. Well, there's a huge influx of one-time money from the federal government that we received from President Biden. A lot of that's COVID relief dollars. That's not sustainable. As you know, just 6-7 short years ago, we were in a $1.5 billion revenue failure, and Oklahoma has a challenging task of having to pass a tax increase by 2/3 or a supermajority vote, but it's incredibly easy to cut them with only a simple majority or 50% plus 51 votes. So, the money that we have right now is great, but decreasing funding as a state superintendent wants to eliminate $48 million is not a good idea. I know that Governor Stitt said he's not for that either, but to be comfortable with the amount that we have in savings right now, it's important to know that cash won't always be there. And as long as we have bills to pay and services, core services that people rely on that are in the bottom 10, I think we're a long way from having a conversation of cutting taxes. Now, I am 100% for cutting regressive taxes, like the state portion of the grocery sales tax. I think that is something that many Oklahomans, including my own family, would definitely find some relief from. But the difference between a regressive tax and a progressive tax is a regressive tax disproportionately hurts low-income people, and a progressive tax disproportionately benefits high-income earners. And so getting rid of the grocery sales tax or the pink tax, which is a tax on feminine hygiene products, overall is a good thing for everyone. But of course, the income tax is based off of how much your ability is to pay. And so there's different tax brackets. Right now, the highest one in Oklahoma is 4.75%. 20 years ago, before the Republicans took over the House and Senate, it was at 7%. And that was what the top earners in the state were making. I'm not sure if these are the exact tax brackets from 20 years ago, but this is how it would work. If you make over $250,000 a year, you're paying the lowest. If you make under $250,000 a year, you're paying the lowest. If you make under $500,000, you're paying about a half a percent more, and then up to $1 million, paying a 0.5% more. If you're making over $1 million or $2 million, and you're paying that 7%. Well, since then, it's been cut and eliminated all the way down to now the highest tax bracket is only 4.5%. And over the past 20 years, under Republican leadership in the House and Senate, you've seen those metrics that we want to be top 10 in, like education, infrastructure, healthcare, public safety, go from about the middle of the country. We're sitting around 22, 23, 24, 25. And now you fast forward to year 2023, after we've been chipping away at that 7%. Now we're at bottom 10 of all of those. We're sitting at 47th, 48th, 49th. I just heard a statistic saying 50th in education. But I don't, that is not a criticism against a lot of these schools that are doing amazing work with the limited resources they have. The public school that my kid goes to is, the teachers are amazing, the faculty, the staff, everyone is really doing a great job with the limited resources they have. The per pupil funding is a real struggle in Oklahoma, and these teachers and staff and public school administrators are doing really good job with the limited resources available. So I hope that makes sense, the difference between regressive and progressive taxes. Oh, hey, thank you, Nancy. Nancy says, when are you running for governor? I really appreciate that vote of confidence. That's not in my plans right now, but you never know. Timing, politics is a lot about timing. I enjoy my work outside of the legislature. I've been involved with nonprofit work. I've done some insurance work. So public service is really meaningful to me. And I love my job and serving my community. And right now, especially in South Oklahoma City, we still have a lot of work to do. So I'm not going to be running for governor in this next election. But I do appreciate your confidence in asking me that. Thanks for representing us well. Hey, how you doing, Robert? Thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. If you don't know Robert, he's always available, ready to help volunteer. He's a great on the doors. He's the type of people who really makes a difference in this state, especially for working people and democratic values of standing up for the underdogs and making sure everyone has an opportunity to reach their full potential. All right, well, that does it for today. We're right at 15 minutes. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Chair Alicia Andrews for all that she does for the Democratic Party. I know she's doing important work today, and it was an honor to fill in. Happy to always be here and connect with the people. If you have any more questions that come up, maybe you're watching this after it's been live, feel free to just put your questions in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you next Thursday. Have a safe weekend. Bye.